Just last week, the media and the shill influencers were trying to do everything they could to save Snow White from being a complete and total flop in the box office, and they failed miserably. This movie is already a complete and total disaster, and it is so bad that now even the media has to admit.
South Park, the animated show infamous for its ruthless satire, chose Rachel as their latest target. And they didn't just poke fun, they obliterated her image. The episode, titled The DEI Special, aired during primetime and instantly broke the internet. Within minutes, clips began circulating. In the parody, Rachel's animated double storms through the fictional Disney studios, shouting that she was going to fix society with her new Snow White role. She mocked the original story, trashed the prince character as a creepy stalker, and scolded anyone who dared question her.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
The animation was so sharp, it hit like a documentary. Viewers familiar with her real interviews couldn't tell where reality stopped and satire began. The most brutal moment came halfway through the episode. The cartoon Snow White, voiced with an exaggerated version of Rachel's tone, looks into a mirror and realizes she's overshadowing the evil queen. She snaps. Her eyes widen. She yells at the mirror, "I'm not here for love. I'm here for power." The scene ends with her storming out, ignoring every character around her, as a fake Disney executive watches in horror. The entire sequence was edited with eerie precision, echoing real-life footage from Rachel's Variety and Extra TV interviews. It wasn't just a joke. It was a mirror held up to her public persona, magnified and unrelenting.
It does seem like the media have got the throw her under the bus green light, though, when we're posting things like this. We're slagging her off behind the scenes, we're dropping all the information, and then reminding you of, her attacking the majority of the population of America when she posted F the Orange Man.
Social media detonated. On TikTok, creators posted side-by-side comparisons, showing the animated parody and Rachel's actual interview quotes. Twitter turned into a war zone. The hashtags #RachelZegler, #SnowWhiteFiasco, and #SouthParkRoast trended globally within hours. Commenters, regardless of political affiliation, seemed united by one thing: disbelief at how accurate and brutal the parody was. Even viewers who hadn't followed the Snow White drama suddenly had opinions. The satire was too sharp to ignore, too personal to write off. And Rachel? She went completely dark. No tweets, no statements, not a single Instagram story. Her accounts were frozen in time, like someone had hit pause. But behind the scenes, Disney was spiraling. Publicity logs show that within 48 hours of the episode airing, her scheduled talk show appearances were abruptly canceled. Internal Disney documentation revealed concerns regarding narrative alignment and instructed PR teams to halt all solo press promotions featuring Zegler.
I love what you said about wanting to entertain audiences, critics saying Disney's too woke, but you're just putting out storytelling.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means.
The studio, already rattled by disappointing box office numbers from recent projects, realized they had a PR disaster. And it wasn't just because of what Rachel had said. It was because the entire world had just laughed at it. What happened next wasn't just embarrassing, it was catastrophic. The South Park parody lit a fuse Disney couldn't smother. Just hours after the episode aired, internal emails leaked to press networks. The documents confirmed what many had suspected. Disney had already been bracing for backlash. A memo from the company's senior marketing director, dated 2 weeks before the episode dropped, outlined a contingency plan in case Rachel's interviews resurfaced or were used in unauthorized parody content. They knew it was coming, and yet they had no way to stop it. Legally, South Park was bulletproof. Under US copyright law, parody is protected speech. That meant no lawsuits, no takedowns. Rachel Zegler had no shield. Meanwhile, the internet was feasting. Dozens of YouTube creators dropped hour-long breakdowns of the parody, splicing the cartoon with clips of Rachel's real quotes. One channel gained over 1.2 million views in less than 48 hours by simply comparing the South Park Snow White meltdown to Rachel's infamous "he stalks her" interview.
Crying on that stage.
When am I not crying in public? It's so upsetting.
Why were you crying?
Oh my gosh, I saw we didn't even see. But I saw the logo and I went, that's my name, Snow White's up there.
The resemblance was undeniable, and viewers couldn't get enough. Google search trends spiked overnight for Rachel Zegler South Park, eclipsing even major political headlines. Then came the merchandise. Independent sellers rushed to print shirts, stickers, and mugs featuring quotes from the parody like, "I'm here for power," and "DEI Special." Etsy shops reported thousands of sales in the first week alone. Rachel's face, cartoonized and screaming, became a meme. And not the kind you want. At the same time, real damage was unfolding behind the studio walls. On March 15th, Disney quietly removed Rachel's name from an upcoming press tour announcement for D23 Expo. Previously listed as the film's main speaker, she was replaced by co-star Gal Gadot. Official emails confirmed the change was made to ensure media focus remains positive. But the truth was clear. Disney was cutting her out. Behind the scenes, things were turning cold. Rachel's access to internal promotional groups was revoked. Her publicist was removed from Disney's official liaison team, and her trailers were reportedly edited to reduce her solo screen time. One version of the teaser trailer was pulled just 36 hours after the South Park parody aired, replaced with a cut that focused more on the forest, the dwarves, and vague magical imagery.
So did you go directly from West Side? Like, did you have to audition for Snow White, or like, oh, they saw you in West Side Story, they're like, you're Snow White?
West Side Story was kind of nowhere near coming out. We were about like 6 months away from release and no footage had been seen.
Rachel appeared for only 2 seconds. Financial fallout hit next. Disney's quarterly earnings report, released April 3rd, revealed a $76 million dip in projected international revenue tied to performance volatility in legacy IP remakes. Though the statement didn't name Snow White, analysts quickly connected the dots. Streaming data showed a sharp decline in Snow White trailer engagement across all platforms, with YouTube likes to dislike ratios plummeting and comment sections filled with parody references. And then, Rachel Zegler reappeared, but not in the way anyone expected. Paparazzi photos showed her walking through New York, head down, sunglasses on, refusing to answer questions. When one reporter shouted, "Did you watch the South Park episode?" her only response was a visible eye roll before entering a car. There was no official statement, no rebuttal, but her silence wasn't seen as strength. It was interpreted as retreat. Every day the parody stayed online, her brand faded further. And Disney? They were in full triage mode. Staff were instructed to pivot marketing focus toward ensemble storytelling, effectively distancing the project from Rachel entirely.
Snow White reviews are in. Snow White, how shall we say? Data points are in, because we now know that it was a flop.
According to internal documents, 3 planned merchandise campaigns centered on her version of Snow White were shelved indefinitely. One executive reportedly called the situation the worst PR spiral since Mulan 2020. But even as Disney tried to bury it, South Park kept winning. Paramount Plus announced that the DEI Special was now the platform's most streamed episode of the year, beating even the Meghan and Harry parody. Fan-made animations popped up across YouTube, reimagining other Disney remakes with South Park-style DEI chaos. The parody hadn't just made people laugh, it had sparked a cultural reckoning. With every passing day, the South Park parody wasn't fading, it was mutating. What started as satire had transformed into a full-blown movement. Reddit threads titled, "Rachel Zegler was the final straw," climbed to the front page. YouTubers were uploading full timelines chronicling Disney's so-called woke collapse.
Oh my god, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker and Nadia Stacey designed your hair and makeup. It's like the most incredible thing in the world. And then all of a sudden you open your eyes and you watch the playback, which I never do.
With Rachel's meltdown in the parody labeled as the cultural turning point, millions were watching, millions were agreeing. And now, the pressure wasn't just on Rachel. It was on Disney's top brass. Bob Iger, who had returned to steady the Disney ship after its chaotic Chapek years, now found himself fighting fires on every front. According to shareholder meeting transcripts filed March 28th, Questions about Snow White dominated the Conda session. Investors demanded answers about the decision to keep Rachel in the film. One even read a quote from the South Park parody aloud in the boardroom, causing awkward laughter and stony silence. That wasn't a meme, that was a billion-dollar boardroom cracking. Meanwhile, footage leaked from a late February test screening of Snow White. The audience score, 27%. Viewer feedback was brutal. Multiple comment cards, obtained and verified by Deadline, called the film soulless, preachy, and embarrassing. One response even said, "Felt like a TikTok rant stretched to 2 hours." But the worst reviews came specifically for Rachel. According to screening data logs, her favorability rating came in at an abysmal 9%. Executives panicked. A secret reshoot was ordered, quietly and fast. Documents from a vendor filing in Vancouver listed principal actor reshoots under the project codename Apple Core, widely known to be Snow White.
This thing was a disaster. It only made $43 million at the box office, which is really bad for a movie like this. I don't have the numbers at the top of my head, but I want to tell you, Cinderella, which was a number of years ago, don't forget how much inflation has happened.
Flights were booked, sets were reassembled. But the star? Missing? Rachel Zegler was not included in the reshoots. Instead, they focused on side characters, expanding their roles to cushion her screen time. According to those familiar with the updated edit log, the evil queen, played by Gal Gadot, was given 11 more minutes of new footage. The dwarves, originally reduced to background characters in early trailers, were restored with actual lines and personality. Rachel's Snow White, chopped down, filtered, and buried under ensemble edits. But Disney's attempt to salvage the project came too late. On March 30th, just weeks after the parody aired, toy retailers began pulling Snow White merchandise from shelves. Not because of protest, because it wasn't selling. Sales data from Hasbro's public quarterly call showed record-low early interest in the Snow White line. Industry insiders confirmed that even frozen stock from previous fairy tale remakes, like Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella, had outsold Snow White 2025 pre-orders by nearly. Even Disneyland responded.
It was a really, really, really bad flop. Now, things I do for you guys. I went to Snow White over the weekend. I took my kids. I'll tell you, I'm not sure who was more bored.
The park's official Snow White meet and greet quietly removed promotional material referencing the new film. Cast member schedules leaked showing that the updated costume, modeled after Rachel's version, was no longer being used. Instead, Disney returned to the original 1937 gown design, the same version Rachel had publicly called weird and not for modern audiences. The irony wasn't lost on fans. Online, a viral post showed the cartoon version of Rachel shouting about fixing society, followed by the caption, "You fixed it so hard, they brought the original back." But the most dramatic fallout came when a major press event for the film was outright canceled. Snow White and the Seven, the long-teased official panel for CinemaCon, was removed from the schedule just 48 hours before launch. No explanation, no rescheduling. Attendees who had paid for the premium event received refunds and a new itinerary, which now focused on upcoming animated legacy projects. Translation: safe bets, non-controversial titles. The film was becoming radioactive.
Snow White, the toe-curlingly terrible live-action remake, has bombed so hard at the box office that even Paul Tassi had to admit it. It got $43 million, and there are very few ways to spin that.
Still, the South Park episode kept climbing. Paramount released streaming milestones showing over 100 million global views across platforms. Merch featuring the DEI Special logo began appearing at fan expos. Even voice actors from the show began teasing a follow-up episode. And through it all, Rachel remained silent. Her official accounts hadn't posted since March 2nd. She wasn't seen at any award shows, panels, or red carpet events. When Vanity Fair ran a feature on the faces of 2025, she was noticeably absent. A star erased, but Disney couldn't erase what had already happened. They couldn't pull the parody. They couldn't scrub the memes. They couldn't fix the brand. And as the studio entered crisis mode, one question began echoing across every studio floor, every financial report, every press office line. What happens when your star becomes your biggest mistake? By April, the damage was no longer digital. It was institutional. Inside Disney, Snow White had officially entered containment mode. a term used in their internal crisis response handbook for projects deemed unrecoverable in the public eye. According to an operations memo obtained through an industry leak, the film's global rollout was downgraded from tentpole status to soft release strategy. That meant reduced ad spend, minimal press coverage in certain regions.
I think it's fair to say that no one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie. And yet, Christian, you've seen the movie, and it appears that the filmmakers cobbled together enough salvageable material to make the movie itself quite nice.
For a movie once intended to be the crown jewel of Disney's live-action slate, it was a death sentence dressed in corporate language. Behind closed doors, the strategy shifted from promoting the film to protecting the brand. Rachel Zegler's name was scrubbed from marketing decks and partnership slides. In one internal pitch to European licensors, she wasn't mentioned at all. Instead, the film was pitched as a reimagined ensemble fantasy with a focus on visual magic and legacy themes. The term Snow White was barely used. It was as if Disney wanted people to forget it even existed. But outside those walls, the fire was still raging. On April 7th, a bombshell dropped that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Rachel Zegler was quietly released from a multi-picture contract with Disney. This wasn't a rumor. The paperwork surfaced through legal filings that confirmed the termination of her ongoing development deal. The documents didn't cite a reason, but they didn't have to. The timing said everything. Rachel had been erased. The media response was instant and brutal. Headlines labeled her Hollywood's canceled princess. Talk shows dissected the fall with gleeful cruelty. Even former allies in the industry began distancing themselves. One late-night host joked, "She went from fairest of them all to ghosted by them all." The line got a standing ovation. But the most devastating reaction didn't come from comedians. It came from Wall Street. On April 8th, Disney stock dipped 6% in a single day, its sharpest drop in over a year. Analysts tied the plunge directly to poor performance expectations for Snow White and its ripple effects on Disney's broader live-action strategy.
You see yourself as the evil queen. You are not evil. You are not evil. You're a queen, but you're not evil. What was it like seeing yourself as the evil queen for the first time?
We did not see the clip.
In an investor report published by Morgan Stanley, the South Park parody was named outright as a catalyst event that accelerated public distrust in Disney's creative direction. A cartoon had cost them hundreds of millions in real-world value. And the timing couldn't have been worse. 2025 was supposed to be a rebound year for Disney. After the lukewarm performance of The Marvels, Ant-Man 3, and the delayed Fantastic Four reboot, Snow White was positioned as a guaranteed win. Instead, it became a textbook case in how not to handle controversy. The studio, the star, and the story had all collapsed under the weight of a single episode of television. An animated mirror held up to an industry that had stopped listening to its audience. But as Disney tried to pivot, another storm was already forming. Whispers of a second South Park parody began circulating online. Clips leaked of what appeared to be a follow-up, this time mocking another major studio's DEI-heavy reboot strategy. Fans were buzzing, Hollywood was bracing, and executives everywhere were watching South Park not as entertainment, but as a threat. And in the center of that chaos was Rachel Zegler. No interviews, no redemption arc. Just a name that once promised magic, now associated with a moment that changed everything. The screen had gone dark, but the story was far from over.